Hello, welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. Today I want to show you how to make fringe earrings on a triangle frame like this, how to weave it onto there. And the cool part about it is that I'm going to show you how to do it with a beading pattern that you already have. If you already have a sort of brick stitch fringe earring pattern like this, you can alter that pattern to just use the bottom fringe part to make these earrings. So here is one of my patterns. And we're just going to use the second page of it. And it's 17 beads wide. I've realized with this size triangle, 17 delicate beads wide is the perfect size. If you're using a different size bead, it will probably be a different number of beads. But these patterns seem to work well. If you have my book, it's going to give you double use out of the patterns in my book because now you can make a different kind of earring with the same pattern. That one would be really cute as just fringe. Now that I'm looking through the book, I'm really excited about making a bunch more of these fringe earrings with just the bottom parts. And the great thing is if you are trying to stock up to sell at a market, craft fair, website, whatever, these take a lot less time. So this is a good way to sort of bulk up on your inventory without spending so much time. And they're still really effective. They're very dangly and fun. If you don't have any patterns, don't worry. You can just follow along. Use a solid color to make your fringe and just learn the technique. In fact, I think I want to make a solid like black pair of these for myself just to go with some things I have. So anyway, let's get started. So for my supplies, I am using Miyuki Delicate Beads in size 11. And I am using KO beading thread. I also really like the Miyuki beading thread. This is a nylon beading thread. It is they say pre-wax, but I think it's just pre-something on it, but it doesn't tangle, which is why I really love it. So we're using that. I have these triangle frames that I showed you in the beginning, and they are about an inch wide. Shout out to Havana Outpost in Brooklyn for this ruler. So it is about an inch wide. I would say the inside's a bit smaller than an inch. If I find some, I will link them in my Amazon shop. And I have these little French ear wires. And I have a size 12 beading needle. Size 12 beading needle, there she is. And I have my pattern as well. If you don't have a pattern, like I said, you could just do a solid. If you would like to follow this particular pattern, I will link it below. Or you could follow along with one of the patterns from my book, any pattern you want to use. So here is the beginning part. We just need to decide, the only thing about altering this pattern is for that first row, you want to decide how you want it to look. I don't want to use the first row of the fringe because I don't want to double it. And I don't really want to use the first row of this top section. So what I'm going to do is just keep a solid one color, my first row. So I'm going to do a solid color of 17 across, and then I'm going to add my fringe. So to do that, I first need to prepare my thread. And I'm cutting a slightly over 5-foot piece of thread. As long as you can sort of stand it, I think is what you want to do. Because this does use a lot of thread because it is fringe. And you want to stretch this thread out. You really, that's what I'm doing here, stretch it out, get all the curves out of it ahead of time. And then thread your needle. Here we go, needle's all threaded. And then we are going to attach it to the frame. So to do that, we're going to pull it down, put the string through the triangle, pull it down towards the end. You want to leave yourself a 2 to 3 inch tail there. And we're just going to do a little like overhand knot once and then twice. So that's the first one, and then over and under, just like you're tying your shoes, and then make a strong little knot there. And then we are going to start with a row of double brick stitch on this frame. So I'm going to pick up 4 beads to start a row of double brick stitch, like so. Slide them down to the end of my thread. Now that thread is still going to be a bit slippery. Don't worry, as we continue, it will stop sliding around. So then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come from the back of the frame to the front. So from the back to the front, pull that through, And then I'm going to take my needle and come back up through the second 2 beads, like that. And then I'm going to go down through the first 2 beads, like so. And now we go back up through the second 2 beads again. And we pull that tight, give it a little tug. I was going to say a snug, but a tug. And you see that's still moving around, but just continue to hold it in place and it will tighten up. So now we're going to add our next 2 beads. So picking up 2 beads again, slide those down. Bring your needle from the back to the front again, and then through those last 2 beads, like so, and pull that tight. Oops, I grabbed my ruler in the back there. Does that happen to you when you're beading? So that happens to me a lot, or just grab whatever's off camera. Okay, so pull that tight and give it a little tug. If you tug it in the opposite direction, it helps to tighten it up there. And then we're going to keep doing this. So let's do that again. Pick up 2 more, slide them down, and through the back of the triangle, and then through those 2 beads. Give that a good tug. And you'll see it now, it's starting to slide less. For the 17 beads, so this is going to be 17 sections of 2 beads across the bottom of this triangle. And you will see that they're going to hang over just slightly on the edge of the triangle. I mean, nothing obnoxious, but I would say 15 is actually the perfect number if you want to keep it right inside that triangle. But 17 seems to work. I think if you have a pattern that's 15 wide, it would be great. Also, if you have a pattern that's wider and you want to use it, so say it's 20 beads wide or something like that, just, alter the pattern. Don't use the 2 outside rows of fringe. Just choose which rows of fringe you want to use, and you could totally make this pattern work, a bigger pattern work with this triangle fringe. So we're just going to scooch through this quickly now because I think you have the hang of it. You don't need to watch me do all 17 little sections, I hope. It could get boring, and I'd have to just chatter on, and that would get boring for sure. So I'm going to speed that up here. And when you get all 17 sections done, then come on back here. Here I am on my 16th, and then I'm just going to count to see where I am. And I am on 16, so I need 1 more. And you'll see here how it's going to just slightly be over the edge. You'll see what I mean here in a second. Like now. Okay, so see, it's like just a little bit over the edge. It's perfectly fine. Nothing to get excited about. Okay, so now we're ready to add the fringe. So before we do that, I just wanted to show you how I read the word pattern of my fringe. I also want to let you know I'm substituting the gold in this pattern for silver because I have a silver frame. So this is how I read my patterns. I thought I would just show you because I haven't shown this before. But when I'm doing the fringe, this is what I do. I have a little bookmark here, and I isolate the row that I'm looking at because I am older and I need to do that for myself. And then I go across. So it's 3 white, 1 turquoise, 5 white, 1 turquoise, 5 white, 1 turquoise, and so on across. And so I am looking at that on this side while I get my beads. And I didn't think you wanted to watch me get all those beads. So I get my first row of beads, and then I slide them down. And then I'm going to add the end bead. You'll see the end bead in my patterns is separate from the fringe. So I'm going to pick up just 1 bead that's going to go on the end, like its namesake. And then I slide my needle through the beads that were already there. And the end bead is going to hold them all in place. So I slide that up. And I'm going to go all the way up through the first 2 rows of that brick stitch. And there we go. And then I'm going to come down to the neighboring 2 beads, through the neighboring 2 beads like that. And there we go. And notice I'm always checking the sort of tension of my fringe. It's really important as you go along to check the fringe. I'm doing that again. So again, I've added the whole row of fringe. I've picked up an end bead and I'm sliding my needle through all of those beads. So I've got through as many as I can lying down, and now I've just picked it up so I can get through the rest of them. Yes, so I do want to talk a bit about fringe tension in this video because it's something I haven't talked about before and I've had a lot of questions. How do you get fringe flowy? I mean, first of all, this thread is important. It's important that you're using a nylon beading thread like this because it does give you the flow. It's not stiff. And then you see I sort of pull my fringe each time to make sure it's sitting right. I lie it down and make sure my beads line up because it's really annoying when you mess up your pattern and realize that you skipped a bead or something. So always check in between, always sort of, I don't know, I want to say massage them. I guess that's what I do. I sort of massage the beads into place. I lay it down in between and just massage them. Make sure there's no gaps at the top of your fringe. Make sure they're not too, if you pull too tight, then they're stiff and they don't really like move and flow the way you want them to. So those are my tips for fringe. Also, just keep doing it. The more you do it, the better your fringe will get. But you see how mine are like hanging like that? That's how you want it. You don't want them to be stiff. Okay, so I'm going to keep going through here. And now I'm about to show you how I didn't follow my own advice because I have a mistake in there. So I should have had 3 silver beads. I only have 2. So I also wanted to take this opportunity to show you how to properly take apart your fringe. So you don't want to pull too hard because especially with this thread, it's not like fireline. It is more fragile and more prone to sort of friction. So just really slowly, gently pull it out when it's running along that edge. And then you're going to do the same thing to the bottom. Find your loose thread and just gently pull that out. It's good to hold the beads with the other hand in place. And now I am going to take off the beads below where my mistake is. Just pull those off. And then rethread my needle and carry on like that mistake never happened. And I'm going to double check my fringe every time from now on so that doesn't happen again. So we're going through. I'm just going to add this fringe quickly now because you know how to do this. Now I've run out of thread. It always happens, right? It's going to happen. So we're going to take the thread we have left. Don't leave it so long that you have no thread to weave back in. So I'm going to take this thread and I'm just going to weave it back into that top row of brick stitch. Basically going down 1, up the next, down 1, up the next. You could sort of wrap around 2 beads twice, but we're just creating some tension here and not having to make a knot because we don't want a really obvious looking knot at the top. And it's a bit trickier with this piece because we don't have a lot of beadwork to hide it in. If we had done brick stitch at the top, like the original pattern, then there'd be plenty of place to hide that thread. So we just have to be sort of conscious of not overloading particular beads with thread so that it's too tight to get a needle through. So that is pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is take the thread and I'm going to take it down into the fringe when I clip it. All right, so I'm just going to do this one more time to make it extra secure. And then we're going to take it down into the fringe. And don't be afraid to turn your piece around like that. Okay, so down into the fringe. You just don't want to clip it right up at the top because there's just so much going on there that it could get messy. But if we take it down into the fringe, we will hide that end thread, clip it at the end there, and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now I am ready to give that the old clipperoo. There we go. And the thing I forgot to say is before you ended your thread, please double, triple, quadruple check your fringe, because once you end that thread, it's over. You can't go back and fix it. So now I'm starting a new thread. I haven't cut as big of a piece as the first time because I only have those 3 little fringes left. So I'm finding a nice place here to start my new thread. I definitely would not want to start it where I ended that last one, where I wound around so many times, because those beads are going to be really congested with thread at this point. And if you get your beads have too much thread inside of them and you try to like force your needle through, you can break a bead. That has happened to me in the past many times. It hasn't happened in a long time, knock on wood, but it will happen. So never force the bead. If it doesn't feel right, then like go in the other direction, figure out another way. There's always an alternative. So basically I've done the same thing with that thread. I think I haven't been so overzealous this time. Like I didn't really need to go through all those times in the last one. Sometimes I just do. I don't know. It's fine. But now I've gone back and forth around, woven that new thread in, and now I'm coming down the fringe place where I would have ended. I'm going to clip the tail off, and then I'm going to start adding fringe. There we go. And in a second here, there we go. I have clipped the fringe, and I'm going to give that a good tug. See, that's not going anywhere. Give it a tug if you're ever worried about not knotting. I mean, really, the tension does work. And here I am adding my very last row of fringe, finally, after the thread ending disaster. And then I'm just going to weave that thread back in. Look how flowy that fringe is. That's how you want your fringe to look. And obviously check your fringe before you finish off this final thread, because otherwise you have to cut it all off and start over. So I'm going to weave that back in. And then I'm going to take the beginning little tail there. The first tail, I'm just going to take that tail right down into the first fringe, because we started with a knot, so we don't really need to do anything else to secure that. So just take that little tail down into the fringe, give it a clip. And how cute is that? I'm telling you, I'm going to make like 12 of these because I feel like I need them for summer. Okay, so now we are taking our French ear wire. I'm going to turn it to the side there. Open it up, and then we just close it up again. Give it a little squeeze, and there we have it. Super cute. I'm so excited about these. I don't know why I never thought about doing this before, but now that I have, I am really proud of myself, and I'm going to make a bunch with all the patterns I already have. So if you have patterns, recycle them, make something else with the pattern you already have, and I hope you enjoy this fun project. Okay, bye.